I am Kamali, taking you through the stories people are talking about and sharing around the world on NewsFeed today. YouTube, we watch, but who gets paid? We report on musicians trying to get more money from the streaming site. India's government puts the pressure on WhatsApp to stop spreading fake news.
They must remain accountable, responsible, and vigilant.
Sleeping in Mandela's cell to raise money for charity. South Africans upset over plans for this year's CEO sleepout. And it's Thursday and we have the biggest animal doing stuff we've ever had. On top of our newsfeed, YouTube versus the music industry. Now, it won't surprise you to know that more people listen to music on YouTube than on any other streaming service. The site's become what MTV was in the 80s and 90s, a huge platform for making hits. Just look at the way that Despacito blew up. An average song with an average video, and now it's the most streamed track ever. It was inescapable last summer, and there will be another one soon. But that's the ish. The artists who make these songs, and they're being played and played and played, but are they getting paid enough?
And chips on both of my shoulders, reputation.
And earlier in the week, we reported about the worrying trend of WhatsApp-related lynchings in India. Now, fake news and rumours have led to at least 25 people being killed. And now the Indian government have demanded action to be taken by the messaging app.
You cannot evade your accountability and responsibility by merely saying that we have created the platform and rest is none of your concern. The use, abuse, misuse of your platform, particularly which leads to killing of innocent people, is plainly not acceptable. मुझे खुशी है कि कल शाम को नोटिस गई थी उनकी और उन्होंने कैलिफोर्निया से मैं जवाब भेजा है. Therefore, I appreciate the promptness of their reply.
All right, let's take a look at what else is out there trending on social media. Now, are you part of the BTS army? Me neither, but their tracks could be playing at the World Cup during the final matches. That's all one from EXO, who are also a South Korean mega group. There will be K-pop played at the tournament, whichever group wins the online poll. Now, good news for South Korea, we knocked out Germany. The National Health Service is 70 years old, and that's being marked on British Twitter and around the world. Healthcare for all, free at the point of need, was one of the most radical and enduring social programs ever created. Now, it has its problems, but it's still going strong in its 7th decade. And yet today we told you about a maybe romance on a plane that was live tweeted by an actor called Rosie Blair. Well, update if you want one. The guy involved was this guy, Ewan Holden. He's a former footballer. Now, no news if he fell in love at 35,000 feet, but he did reply to Rosie's thread and said he knew she was taking his picture. Now, every year in Johannesburg, a bunch of South Africa's richest people sleep outside to raise money for charity. And they raise loads, and it's quite an event. But this year, there was an auction to sleep in Nelson Mandela's old cell on Robben Island. It's being offered for $250,000. And when it was announced, the South African internet blew up, so much so, the plan has been canned. Well, for more on this, we can speak to Crystal Alderson, who's a journalist who's based in Cape Town. Now, Crystal, they do this all the time, but the idea of auctioning off sleeping in Mandela's cell, that's one too far, maybe.
In bad taste. In fact, Twitter has completely backlashed against the CEO sleepout idea to spend a night at the late President Nelson Mandela's cell on Robben Island, charging about $250,000. South Africans completely outraged, saying it's tacky, it's in bad taste. But the organizers, of course, saying that, well, they've postponed it indefinitely, but they're still planning to organize it. We've heard from Robben Island Museum, who've completely distanced themselves from this idea and say that Robben Island is a World Heritage Site, and there's no way that they will allow this to happen. Kamali.
Crystal, just give us an idea for those of us who may not know what the CEO sleepout is. What do they do, first of all, and why has it caused controversy in the past?
Yes, so it's been held every year in Johannesburg, where your big 500 companies on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange and the executives sleep out to get a sense of what it's like for millions of South Africans who actually do sleep out. Of course, it's a fundraising event, and organizations actually do get assistance from these CEOs and the money raised. But South Africans still see it as just bad taste. How do you romanticize poverty? South Africa has one of the biggest gaps between the haves and the have-nots, those that earn millions of dollars and those that earn less than $2 a day to survive. And so people are saying that to do this, you're romanticizing poverty and the reality that millions of South Africans are actually facing that do sleep out. And I think this will have a backlash on the event. It's supposed to take place next week, and I do think we've not heard the end of this CEO sleepout and the fallout of the Robben Island Museum issue.
Absolutely. And where does the money raised from these CEO sleepouts, where does that actually go to? Is it going into social housing? Is it going into providing accommodation for those, as you say, the millions of people who actually do sleep rough all the time?
Ironically, no two major organizations benefit from the CEO sleepout, including the Lilies Farm, which is outside of Johannesburg, and in fact, it's where the Rivonia trialist, which of course now the late Nelson Mandela was one. Also, people like Dennis Goldberg, where the police raided the farm and arrested those that subsequently spent many decades on Robben Island. And so, of course, it is a significant site for South Africans and for the world, because it is the site where these Rivonia trialists were arrested by the police, but that's just one of the organizations. So, of course, the critique often against the CEO sleepout is that perhaps you should include more organizations, especially those that are dealing with the issue of homelessness and poverty alleviation in South Africa.
Absolutely. Okay, Crystal, in Cape Town, thank you so much for now. And let's take you around the world for some other stories you need to know this Thursday. An app has been launched in Spain to try and help women who face sexual assault at the annual Running of the Bulls festival. An 18-year-old was raped in 2016, a crime that shocked Spain. The country was further outraged when the guys who did it were given very lenient sentences. Now, this new app allows women to call the cops at the touch of a button. A location will also be sent. There were calls to boycott the festival altogether. And we've reported a few times about female reporters being kissed while reporting matches at the World Cup. Well, now a male reporter has been kissed by a female fan who was working for a South Korean broadcaster. And it's not just this guy. Spare a thought for our own Lance Santos. This is him being kissed while reporting last week. There it is. His fiancée was not too happy. And a woman who climbed Lady Liberty to protest Donald Trump's policy of separating families at the US-Mexico border has safely returned to the ground. Therese Patricia Acudomo is an immigrant from the DRC. She lives on Staten Island and said she did not come down willingly. She's part of the Rise and Resist movement and said she would not come down until all the children who had been detained had been released. And #Orcs, former First Lady, made the internet laugh by liking an Instagram post that called her husband, George W. Bush, a war criminal. Now, the post Laura Bush liked used a swear which we won't show you, but here it is, and Miss Bush has not yet commented. Maybe it wasn't an accident she liked it, and that's how she really feels. Now, meat eaters and lovers of the planet rejoice. There's now a synthetic burger that bleeds like a real cow bit of beef. And that's causing beef in New Zealand, where it's being offered to business class flyers flying with Air New Zealand. So while NewsFeed's favourite PM, Jacinda Ardern, is on maternity leave, her replacement, Winston Peters, says he's opposed to fake meat and that the burger is an existential threat to farmers. Now, there are other things you can grow, guys, and no one has done a fake lamb chop yet, so we can keep killing baby sheep. Yay! Well, the World Cup is on a couple of rest days as we prepare ourselves for the nerve-wracking, nail-biting quarterfinals, which will begin on Friday. So while we're all catching our breath during what has been one of the best tournaments I can remember, let's take a look and a gloat at some of the high-profile upsets. And in Thursday's Animals Doing Stuff, we have one of the biggest yet. Check this out. Now, commuters in Wellington, New Zealand were given a rare and special treat of seeing a whale hanging out in the harbour. It was doing jumps and flaps and generally seeming to be having a great time. They shared all their videos on social media. Now, this tweet from Wellington City Council was taken from their window, #WhaleWatch. This one says, "Only in Wellington, a southern right whale having fun in the harbour in front of the beehive." And this one reads, "Terrible photo, but most of my workmates have their faces pressed up against the window watching the whale jump out of the water. What a great sight." And last up, it was American Independence Day yesterday, and someone who loves the USA decided to play the national anthem with 25 different guitars and then put it on YouTube. Have a listen. That's all from the NewsFeed team. Do reach out to me with your questions, comments, complaints and suggestions. I'm at Kamali Melbourne. You'll find us 24/7 on Twitter, YouTube and Facebook. Follow, subscribe and add. See you again tomorrow.